Hello, welcome to Cafecito Sin Mapa Unmapped Coffee Chats. I'm Jackie, your host, and today we get to talk to Erica with an A. I love that. Hello,
I like
welcome.
how you pointed that out. Thank
Yes.
you.
I have a friend, I just interviewed her not too long ago and released her episode, and it's Erica with an E. So every time we've been like coordinating to have this conversation with my friend that helps me with the production stuff, I keep having to tell her Erica with an A so she knows who I'm actually talking
Yes, it's Erica with an A.
about. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I know so I found you through Katie. Uh,
Yes.
she did some photography of you, and you had written a kind of like a letter on motherhood. And I
Hmm.
loved your outlook on that. So I was like, I have to see if you'd be willing and able to talk to me. And here we
Sure.
are. So, but before that, I always like to start asking people's coffee orders since we like to make these more of like a
Yeah.
conversation. And you mentioned you're a tea girl.
Actually, I love coffee. I'm a coffee snob, but I do love teas just as much because I kind of am very holistic, and I've just learned over, the last decade how beneficial they are
Mhm.
to women specifically, especially in our cycles. Right now, I'm drinking the tea, plus I was sick. Yeah, I do not have coffee when I'm sick. It's very
Okay.
hard, but yeah,
Oh my gosh, as someone who like just survives off of coffee, I
it's
know it's so
hard.
bad. I know
It
it's so
is,
bad, but
it
it's
is.
such a like it's an addiction, honestly.
Yeah. I tell
Um
people it's my cigarette sometimes.
yeah. Yeah, don't even get me started
Hmm.
with that.
Yeah.
You did mention though that you do like an espresso, but you put saffron and rosemary in it.
Yes.
Tell me about that because I love espresso as well, and that sounds really good.
So I do it at home. I'm not a fan of having coffee out because, like I said, I love a good coffee. My daughter is a barista though, so she'll give me recommendations where to stop that has really good coffee. But I rosemary and saffron are extremely beneficial for the mind. So it's like if we're gonna have the coffee, let's add some good stuff to it. So
Okay.
yeah, I try to have that if I can most mornings. So.
And do you use it in like a powdered form, or how do you put it into the espresso? Do you put it
So
in like
I
a
grow
green
herbs
espresso?
in my backyard, if you saw from the
Yeah.
pictures. So I just clip the rosemary and I will sit it, if I boil it over like Arabic style, like in
Mhm.
the metal little pot, then I'll just put it in there with the saffron. And it's the hair pieces. It's not like fine ground.
Oh.
Otherwise, I will put it in the espresso cup before I start the espresso machine. And yeah,
Okay, and just let it brew with it. Wow. Okay.
it's really, I know it sounds super weird, but
No, I love people that get creative with their coffee orders because it is so cool to have like the different tastes and especially like things
yeah.
that are so like I would have never thought saffron, but I'm going to try it. So I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay.
But okay, so let's start on your journey to motherhood and being a wife. In the story you wrote for Katie and on Katie's page that she posted, um, the the piece, and I took a screenshot of it too because I was like, I want to make sure I say this correctly because it really stood out to me. Um, and we can start with motherhood. So you said that you became a mom at a very early age,
Yes.
and that was one of the toughest experiences that you had because it was you were a young girl still, essentially.
As a mom before a woman.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Um, and you said my daughter had a friend when she needed a mother, and I got a best friend at the cost of her childhood.
Yeah.
That statement alone, I was like, whoa. Do you mind elaborating on just kind of how you came to realize that? Because I think a lot of,
Yeah, I didn't realize it until later.
yeah, I was gonna say, I
Yeah.
think that's a realization that
Yeah.
comes with time. And so, yeah, take us through kind of like what stood
Um,
out to you and how what that journey was like.
so yeah, you learn that later, obviously maturing. And by the way, anything I put out about that, I always ask my daughter to read it first
Oh,
because it affects her
yeah.
and the image, her childhood, her mother, and all those things. So she did read it before I sent it because I don't think I've ever put that out. I've written on motherhood several times, but that was a little bit hard to put into words. But I knew Katie was going to share, so I thought it would be helpful for
Mhm.
people, especially young mothers. But yeah, I probably was not having the best habits, friends, things like that. So when I became a mom, I was still a young girl, but it was the best thing that happened to me and kind of put me on a better path. And but I didn't know how to be a mom. I mean, I was still like learning who I was and what being a woman meant. And then I was a wife and a mother before I was actually, blossomed into a woman or understood what
Yeah.
that meant. So yeah, that can, it affects how you raise kids. It affects, what type of wife you're being even. So yeah,
Yeah.
it,
And you mentioned that it was more of like breaking the cycle to
yeah.
becoming the mother that you knew you could be now that you are a woman and have kind of a different experience. What led you to that part of being able to, I think, grow into really being more of the mother that you wanted to be?
So my mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Mhm.
She had five girls, and she was the typical. I say typical, and that's not to sound ignorant, but I think back then there was an image that a stay-at-home mom had, and she was very traditional. My mom's American. She was married to a Hispanic man, and she would cook and clean and always had us dress very nice. But there's five kids, so she was, very frugal, and she was a thrifter. And my dad would leave very early and come home around dinner time, and we always knew when he was coming home because she was changing, like she was getting dressed and polished. And so she didn't teach me those things, but like I said, kids watch you. So I kind of learned to be what I thought was a woman just by watching what she did. She never told us like, other cultures groom you to be a woman or groom you to be a wife, and we never had that. So when I was about 6, I had a sister that passed away suddenly, and that really affected my parents, and that kind of tore them apart. And overnight, my mom would have to work, and that their divorce took many years, and it was really ugly divorce. We saw things we shouldn't have, and so I just saw that she put up with a lot of things that probably were not the best for us to see, for her to go through, and I think she was following a cycle. Just the same.
Right.
Her mom was divorced and raising kids alone, and um, doing that. You're just going through the motions, I think, of survival. You're like, I have to feed these kids, I have to dress them, I have bills to pay, and so you're not actually engaging, if that makes sense, with those
Yeah.
kids. Not that she was a horrible mom. I mean, both my parents, I think people do the best they know how, but yeah, I guess maybe she didn't have time to stop and teach or nurture.
Hmm.
So yeah, when I talk about breaking the cycle, it's kind of about that. Um,
Okay. And I can resonate with that too because so my mom, I'm Mexican. My mom's a Mexican woman, very traditional. Is at home making dinner, making the flour tortillas from
Same.
scratch every
Yes.
single night, and also worked, and so she like wore a lot of hats. And um, funny enough, though, like growing up, both her and my dad would tell me like I didn't need to do that for a man, which I thought was really interesting that like that was the life they were living. But
Yeah.
for me, they would tell me that I should go to college and like get an education and do stuff so that I wouldn't depend on a man and not have to like wait on him hand and foot. And part of me would be like, wait, but that's what my mom's doing,
Yeah.
you know? So it was
Yeah,
always like a
exactly.
really weird, um, that they kind of like helped me break that cycle for me, but the visual was different than what they were telling me.
Yeah. I mean, my mom afterwards, she worked so much. She got into landscaping and she told me she had to learn to make man's money. I didn't understand that
Mm.
until later on in life. And yeah, I mean, as far as like, um, she definitely changed the perspective of you should never get married after that,
Mm.
which I grew up, to me, I thought was a very traditional home.
Right.
You have two parents and you sit down for dinner. We sat down for every meal. That was something that was ingrained into me, and I still do that today. I think it's extremely important, especially for busy families. It just helps you to stay connected. So it was weird. Like I had those memories up until 6, and then it was like, you should never trust a man. You should never get married.
Mm.
And yeah, so that affects you.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, because there's the difference of like you saw two versions of
I
her.
saw two versions of her. Yeah. And so it does kind of give you a perspective on what could happen and if you trust someone. And yeah, so
Yeah.
it's difficult.
Something else that you said was that through being divorced from your first husband, you opened your eyes to the fact that young boys who grew up without love, support, and nurturing can turn out to being unhealed men. And you go on to say that you are understanding that has helped you love your boy into becoming hopefully a functional man in society, so that he can be grow into a good brother, husband, and father, breaking the cycle as well. Um, how do you, I think, what does that nurturing or like, what do you, I don't even know how to ask the question. Um, because
So
I get what you're
it
saying.
goes back to my dad.
Okay.
So I think that he thought he was being great because he brought home the money
Hmm.
to provide for the family. But when they lost their child, I don't ever remember anyone sitting down discussing what that meant to anyone.
Hmm.
I don't remember my mom being nurtured through that, or vice versa for
Gotcha.
him either. So I think he probably didn't know how to handle that. And that's because that's how he was taught. Like,
Hmm.
the man goes and he makes the money, he brings it home, and that's it. And that's your part.
Right.
So who is supposed to do the rest of it? Like
Hmm.
who is
Yeah.
caring for the house? So yeah, and I think that is a very big role put on men. However, I do think it's part of it.
Mm. Sounds like it's more of like teaching them and your son
They
as well
need to feel there.
be,
It's
yes,
okay to feel.
I'll say emotional intelligence. It's like,
Emotional intelligence is huge.
yeah,
I think it's more important, honestly, than the financial aspect.
absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
I think the older I get, even for myself, I think as I've learned to become more emotionally intelligent and just like even getting to talk to people and learn from them, just having that empathy and understanding that like you said it earlier that like your parents did the best they could with what they had. I think
Right.
that's a huge piece too.
And that takes years to learn that.
Yes.
I think you have to become an adult before you can say that. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. But yeah, when you said that, I was like, I constantly have to tell myself that. Um,
They're doing life the first time too. Yeah.
that right there, that's a good quote.
I mean,
Um,
I say it so easy, but
no, but it's
the
so
learning process
true.
was not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you did you like do therapy or did you do a lot of like reading or how did you get to the place you are currently?
So I think that when you grow up in a difficult situation, I think there's two things can happen to a person. They either repeat it or they want to do the exact opposite. And although I was repeating some of it in my head always, I was like, I don't like I want to do everything possible
Mm,
to not do these things. So just because of how I felt. So, I
yeah.
mean, I know everybody processes things differently.
Mm,
And I'm a big empath. So, I mean, I think naturally, yeah, that helped me
mm,
kind of recognize that.
yeah. Let's shift focus a little bit because I'm really interested in your creative side too. You mentioned you have your garden and like your herbs and you do all kinds of you're very creative,
I've
but
done everything. So I was in the automotive world forever.
ooh.
Yeah, which is funny when people are like, "What?" But yeah, so I was in the automotive world forever. And that's just a horrible industry for a woman.
I can
Is
imagine.
Yeah, it's just a man's world. It's very dirty. There's just no respect. Yeah. So, but whatever. I mean, I made the most of it and I was very successful at it, probably because of the way I grew up. And so I kind of had a tougher skin than
Yeah.
most females probably in the industry. And then I did grow up in landscaping and construction. My dad was in construction and my mom was in landscaping. Very young, I started helping her do drawings, and I kind of an artist, so I was better at it. So she was overwhelmed, and I just started doing the drawings for her, and that became, a way of me making an income.
Mm.
And I ended up actually loving, plants and learning and stuff like that. So I've kind of done that throughout my adult life, on and off.
I love that. And then you're also in fashion, right?
Yes, that was part of me. I've always thrifted. I mean, I guess like my mom, that she taught me to be frugal with money. And so I've always, went to garage sales, estate sales, and things like that. And I was married into a family that they were always going to big lavish parties and things. So you were having to buy a gown like every month. You could never wear the same one
Of
or,
course.
yeah. And so that just didn't make any sense to me. So at the time, I was slowly converting and dressing more modestly, and everything that was out there was extremely tacky. And so, yeah, that's kind of how that came about. I just started designing organically one day, and I don't know what happened. I just built a website and started selling them. And to this day, I don't remember how I figured that out, but
It just happened.
it just happened.
I love that. You also, so this, I thought this was funny. So not, it's not funny, but I'm curious to where your thought process goes because you said that you're a woman's woman, but people probably wouldn't say you're a feminist.
Yeah.
Um, and
My
I think,
sisters would stand by this.
so tell me, what is a feminist to you?
So I'm gonna get hate. Um, I think I think it's changed so much, and
Yeah.
I think it's so heavy now that it's been taken out of context a little bit.
Mm.
I think, yeah, at one point in time, women were home and they didn't have a right. Yeah, I get it. They couldn't get a mortgage and they couldn't drive and they could,
Hmm.
and that's not really cool, right? Because imagining, your husband dies or whatever, and yeah, and then they're
Yeah.
just like, well, you have to go settle for whatever man will take you because you're a divorcee and you have a kid, and so you're like not really at the top of the ladder anymore. And
Right.
that was the real image. But because I watched a single mother raise five kids, and those kids suffer because there wasn't parents around, and because I was a single parent, and now I live a slower life and I am allowed to, be with my kids, and I got to take them to school and pick them up and all of that and see the product of that.
Mhm.
Um, I do believe in the traditional home, so to speak. So
Okay.
that's where feminists would be like,
Yeah.
she's not a feminist. So yeah, I mean, I do see the product of a kid being raised in a home that has two loving parents, or just, it may not be their parents, or just a
Right.
mom who is financially able to have a slower life and who is present. And the whole she movement about going out there and you can't do it all. There is, I've been blessed to be in front of many successful people, and when we've asked them to speak on balance, and I'm not talking about successful as in wealthy people,
Mhm.
like they have a good family, they're they're successful, yes, in business, but to me, family is the ultimate wealth.
Mhm.
And so that's when I talk about successful people. And they'll say there is no balance. There are seasons,
Mhm.
but you cannot have it all at
Yeah.
the same time. And so, yeah.
No, I totally understand that. And I think that's an important message in itself because it's true. Like you're never going to be able to be 100% in
No.
everything, especially if you are juggling motherhood and a career and all the different things. Like what, even including like faith. Sometimes faith can be
Right.
the top
Yeah.
or lower on depending on where you're putting your efforts in. And there is this notion of like we tell people like you can do everything and like yes, you can do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, like it is a balance and it's not going to be 100% of everything that you do. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't think that makes you not a feminist.
Well, I think a lot of people, and we'll wait to see the comments, but I notice when I talk about it, because, people would see me as a single mom and they're like, she's working and then she's the Muslim and because I was a part of a mom group and on a mom app. They've
Mhm.
rebranded now, and they wanted me to write on topics, and I would notice when they would edit them.
Oh.
And, and I'm like, why did you edit that? Because people need to hear that. I mean, it was all moms of all different faiths, all different backgrounds. Um, and so, yeah, I thought it was important to hear that.
Yeah.
So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
that's what I said that.
That's funny. I actually, feminist Abe is back there. Okay, so you just mentioned being Muslim and converting, and
Yes,
you're Mexican,
I
and
am.
so I am really interested in the
It's a Long
journey.
Island.
Yes, it, I feel like it is more and more
Not anymore. It's not right.
common.
It is actually. There's a huge Hispanic Muslim community in Houston. I never even knew about. But
Wow, I didn't
yeah.
know that. I
Hmm.
just TikTok, of course. I get on all sides of TikTok because I'm always
Right.
like looking at people's identities and labels and so I ended up on Arab TikTok at one point and then
So
there was like
funny.
a whole like mix of like, oh, if you're like Arab then like this probably aligns with you as a Mexican and then
Hmm.
I ended up on like Mexicans who are Muslim and it's like, okay, hold on, there's some
A lot of similarities.
commonality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is.
So tell me how your journey to conversion happened.
So I did marry an Arab, and part of that, he was Muslim, born Muslim. I say born Muslim because there's people who are born into it, don't necessarily choose it, and then there's like me, a convert who chooses it. And when we got married, his parents were like, you have to convert." So when you're young, before you're a woman, you just kind of go with the flow of things and what people tell you. And so I did, and I just kind of put it in my head that, okay, this is just something I need to do for him. It's
Mhm.
not affecting me really.
Yeah.
And so we went to a mosque, we got married, and the sheikh gave us some books, some books on being Muslim and Islam, like the principles of it, and a Quran. And I went home and put the books away. And I don't know, maybe 7 years later, I'm moving, and I just started reading the books. I think I read the books, I don't know, maybe a year on and off. I would put them away. Ramadan was coming. It's like a very special time for Muslims where we fast for 30 days and really get close to family. And it's our time to kind of like reset,
Mm.
really. It helps us reset. And I was reading heavily during that time. And his cousin was a dear friend of mine, and stuff I wouldn't understand. We would talk at night. And so one day during Ramadan, I was like, hey, I want to go convert. And he didn't even know I was reading at the time. So it was kind of a surprise. And yeah, I converted. I dove very deep. I don't want to say too deep because I don't know. I mean, you should be close to religious people. You should be close to God. It's hard to, um, when you're surrounded by a family who maybe is not practicing as much and you go that deep, there's going to be conflict. So that was hard. And then, yeah, no one in my family was Muslim. So, yeah, that's very difficult. I mean, most Mexican families, not most, I don't want to say that, but pork is a very loved item.
Yes.
The parties, the barbecues, the fiestas. There
That's
was always
true.
drinking. So I don't want to say that's every Mexican family, but it's
Yeah.
very common.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was very hard to that transition, and then going to all of my family functions, and then they're like, there was jokes and stuff like that, and
Of course.
yeah, so that took a few years to get everybody used to that. And then I kind of found my middle of what, being Muslim meant to me as a Mexican, the only one in my family, and um, in a family that is born Muslims who maybe they're not practicing so much. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting because you said this earlier too. You were kind of a lone island because
yeah.
you kind of had two extremes to each side
Hmm.
and you were kind of in the middle of all of it. Figure out where you sat in that. Have you found a community now?
I always thought if I went to a Middle Eastern country or a Islamic based, like fully, faith country, that would be it. And so when I got divorced, I got to do that, and they were not welcoming. They were
Oh
not that
no.
welcoming. But it was funny because when I came back from overseas, I decided to cover my hair because I realized like religion's within you, it's in your heart. It has nothing to do with your surroundings or anything like that. And so that was kind of my piece with it. It to me, it didn't matter who was accepting it anymore, who wasn't. So yeah, I thought about it. It probably took me a year to cover my hair. My daughter's the one that actually convinced me
Oh.
to cover it one night. And yeah, and it's a struggle. I mean, it's not like, yeah, I get up and I don't wear the hijab how, they say you should. So that's a whole nother police authority over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
So,
And like you said, it is really what's in your heart. And
right.
I do think, and especially with faith, because I've kind of struggled off and on myself with it. And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to just like me and my God, whoever it is.
Right,
And it
exactly.
really isn't, it's no one else's,
Right,
it's no one else's to have an opinion because it's whatever I
exactly.
choose. So I love that. Can you tell me a little bit more about your creative side? Because you also do vintage, right? Like, cause
I do. So I curate and I sell. Over the years, I've kind of gotten into furniture. I did do the Marburger show a year ago,
hmm,
maybe a little more. That was a pretty big deal. I don't know that it's something I will do again. a lot of work
Yeah.
that goes into it. Uh, I think the vintage thing came with probably growing up poor, and we moved a lot. So I was always like collecting things,
Yeah.
and I guess always trying to just make wherever we were home.
Yeah.
And so I think that is probably it. It probably was just learning to live first, and then it
Mhm.
became a passion. So I prefer to vintage over not everything, but I just think it's made better, has character, everything has a
Yeah.
story. I don't I don't think I really retail shop at all. I do sometimes though, like shoes and things like that.
Yeah.
It's hard. But yeah, so probably in 2011, I made it a business, and was designing heavily at that time. I've kind of slowed down the last few years now that I've been remarried, and so yeah, I'm not sure where it's going at the at the
Oh.
moment. But
Have you
yes,
ever been to the Round Top Antique Fair, like Warrington?
yeah. So Marburger is the largest show. I think it's the fourth largest show in the world, and it happens there.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Okay.
that
I was
yes.
like,
So
why
I
does that sound so familiar? Because I was like,
but I didn't know that either, being from
yeah.
Texas and so close. Yes, I met so you know the best friends I have made have been on Instagram. It's so funny.
Oh,
And I think that's where I met Katie actually. So, you know, we just comment on each other's things for years and then we're like, hey,
yeah.
let's meet. But yeah, there was a girl that I met through there and we just have been kind of powering up each other the last several years. And we were like, no, we should do it. Yeah, you should do it. And then we were like emailing the people and then I'm like, did you sign the application? She's like, oh, you did? I'm like, okay, we're doing this. So
You're
um
in.
yeah, we're in. So it was fun. We got to do that together. So I learned a lot what I liked and didn't like and
Yeah.
it was fun. Yeah. But
I
it was
love that.
hard because I'm from Houston and like being away from the family a week. So stuff like that really it
Yeah.
always helps me remember my priorities because I'm
Yeah.
like, I think I want to do it all, but then I'm like, I really miss my family. And yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I always say I'm a mom first and a wife. So
Yeah. I love that. Um, Naturally, the conversation came right back to you being a mother. So I think that's a great place to end. I do want to ask though, um, how is your relationship with your daughter now?
we're best friends. I mean, she was just here. She picked up my son yesterday for me because I was just so sick. And she was like, he probably is bored out of his mind. She
Oh,
brought me this cup.
oh,
Yeah, no, we really are best friends. We did, you know, you mentioned the therapy. We did go to therapy together.
ooh,
We've done our own therapy. Finding religion really helped me, and that kind of is my therapy.
mm,
You know, I'm not always the best at it. I don't always, you know, do all the things I'm supposed to do, but it does help me remember what I'm supposed to be doing. And, you know, when I want to be angry or bitter or ugly, I'm like, I can't. You know, and it's probably kind of why I continue to cover my head. People always ask me, and, you know, when I want to take it off. And it's like, it reminds me, it kind of checks me, so
yeah,
to speak. Yeah. Because
I
I'm
love that.
human. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I lose my stuff all the time. Yeah, and I get frustrated. Yeah,
yeah. Well, so it sounds like you have a lot of you give yourself a lot of grace too.
I had to learn that, but I'm still very hard on myself. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, but covering your hair kind of is part of that reminder too, right?
yes,
That's kind of, I know you said it's like for how you're supposed to act and stuff too, but um, what kind of stood out there was that I think it's a reminder for you to also just kind of stay grounded in a way.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so we'll end with this. If what would you want listeners to take away from this conversation?
Um, let's see. Like, who am I speaking to?
We talked to our listeners are all kinds of people. The whole point is that we do explore like identities and labels for people so that they get
I think the
exposure to
one
others.
thing
But
would be is what I've kind of learned, like what could prevent certain things, and what, just watching my mom and even men, and something I've noticed I kind of tell people is that you really have to learn to love yourself.
mhm.
Be And even if you don't understand what that is, or if you don't grow up with under like there's so many resources to like do the work to figure what that means. Um, so yeah, I think if you do love yourself, it prevents a lot of heartache and trouble, and you recognize red flags where you shouldn't put yourself, things you shouldn't tolerate. So that kind of helps break cycles and helps set you up for success a lot better, I think.
I completely agree with that. I think that's a great message. Thank you so much for sitting with me today. It
Thank
was
you.
lovely meeting you.
You too.
I hope you feel better too.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
sitting in while you're sick. Oh my
No,
gosh.
no, I appreciate it. This has been fun.
All right. Well, take care.
You too. Have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.